Time for some daily game design. I've been chatting with this guy Ross. He's a custodian at Moanalua High School. And anyway, we started interacting because he noticed that I whistle a lot. And it's true, I whistle a lot. I used to sing a lot. At one point, whistling took over. I think I started feeling weird about just like singing lyrics. Like a lot of times I would be singing random stuff, and that was one way that I did a bunch of songwriting, was by walking around and singing. And I don't know, I think I just kind of got in the mode of thinking, which is like, that's what a crazy person would do, or something like that. So anyway, at some point, whistling took over for singing, and now I just pretty much whistle wherever I go. And that stood out to Ross, and he thought of a song, the Japanese song. Maybe I mentioned this before, and I can't even think of what it is, but it's got a whistling part in it. So we started talking about that song, and now pretty much every time I see him, we'll chat, and whistling might come up because I'm usually like whistling through a hallway, and he's there, wiping down something or whatever. So yesterday, he was like, "Oh, wow, can you whistle the Rocky theme song?" And I thought, I don't know what that is. So he started humming it. And yeah, of course I can whistle the Rocky theme song, but why am I whistling the Rocky theme song? It's just funny. Anyway, glad to be with you. I have some more scary thoughts here for Sugar Shack. And you can already see how busy it looks, right? Like there's something going on here. And you might say, ooh, I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to that, whatever that is. So the basic idea, the exciting potential here is that Twitch always kind of weirds me out. I'm never really sure if it's doing okay. Twitch, you doing okay? Because like the bit rate is not okay. There it is. Okay, so I had this thought yesterday of what if I do away with action tokens and syrup essentially becomes the action token. This is like a rebuild, complete rebuild. So I'm a little scared of it, but I'm not super scared of it. Anyway, what this did was bring up the opportunity of something like a basic choice when it comes to managing the Sugar Shack. Because the thing is, you want a constant stream of syrup. And that'll be an important thing for this game. You need tokens every turn to be able to take your turn. I mean, there's money too, but it could be that money is like just a bad deal. So maybe that's important. I think that's actually an essential idea here, is that no matter what, as long as you have money, you're going to be able to take your turn. It just might cost you a bunch. Actually, okay. So I'm already slightly more comfortable with the situation now that I thought of that. Okay. So having money involved here, money being this, what does fungible mean? Not fingable. Fungible. Replaced by another identical item, mutually interchangeable. Oh, interesting. such as currency, share, or goods. So with this money thing being fungible, it can step in as syrup. It's also, you know, fluid, more flexible. You're going to be gaining it and losing it, gaining it and losing it. So you should always have some on hand. You should always have some money, right? Actually, this is not. Yeah, there's something to this already. Anyway, I realized that when it came to managing the Sugar Shack, that we could have a strong version of the Sugar Shack, we could have a weak version of the Sugar Shack action. But the point is that the necessity is that we need to always have a flow, a constant stream of syrup. Okay, so I realized one of those things would be, you know, when we bring the syrup into the building, drop it in the holding tank. What we're looking at here is the unupgraded side. This is the starting side, the basic side. So you could pay, and this is something like, thematically it'd be almost like focus. Like you can pay to have a worker go manage that thing, or to concentrate on that thing. So anyway, you can just get more done when you focus on that, when you spend more energy and money on that thing. So my thinking was, okay, gathering sap should always cost some money. But if you pay a little extra, then you can fill up your holding tank rather than just kind of like add some, you know, some non-technical amount. So here you know, not for free, but for cheap, I could put 2 cubes in here, but for more money, I could put 3. So that's the idea. You could spend money to open the nozzle a little bit more, in a sense. Okay, then at the end of my turn, these things would automatically happen. If I just let them happen, they'll happen. One of them is to transfer. Though the sap will just kind of flow into the tank, no big deal. However, if you want to pay for the transfer, you can just do that right away. So in theory, I could fill this up, then pay to transfer it to the evaporator, right? Well, at the end of my turn, the sap is automatically going to advance in the evaporator. It's going to evaporate. But if I want to pay, I can force it through the evaporate step, right? And then I can spend 2 to catch the syrup. Okay, I already think there's something to this, because you could force. Well, actually, maybe not. Let me think about this for just a second. So let's bring in a cube. Right? Let's bring in a cube. And so that'll sit right there. Okay. So let's say this person let's say turn 1, they bring it in and they force the transfer, but they don't want to spend money on the evaporator. Question is, can they fill this up again? Can they fill this up? They could. Let's say they spend 4 more. Okay. So they spend 4 more right here. Now they could spend 6. So far we've spent 4, and then another 2, and then another 4. So right now we're up to 10 money. They spent 10 money, right? So now I could spend another 6. Okay. spend a 6. So that's 16. Spend another 2 is 18. And then spend another 4 is 22. Right? So this scenario, they spend 22 money. And this is to just like fill up. This fills all the spaces in their Sugar Shack for 22 money. That should feel insanely expensive, right? That should feel crazy expensive. But you could do it to set up the next 3 turns so that you're going to always have 3 cubes. No matter what, you're just going to have 3 cubes. Plus, whatever, I still think you could gain some extra syrup, right? Where was that? Like here, I think you could still gain, you know what? It actually kind of changes what the warehouse might be like, but I think you could still gain syrup. Right, so stretch your syrup a little further. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, so they stretch. Yeah, these would change, like these icons would change to cubes, right? Because I still think you can do something in town to make your next turn stronger or this turn stronger. I think that should be fine. Okay, but where was I? So this costs a lot to like set up the next 3 turns. And as these things are happening, well, I had this thought on the drive home yesterday that maybe this step is kind of unnecessary. So what I want to do is experiment with this. This idea that actually we don't need a holding tank now. Let's just stick with me here. So the holding tank, let's say the holding tank is on the outside of the building, just as, you know, if you want to think thematically for a second. Oh wait, I didn't want to actually get rid of that. So the holding tank will go directly into the evaporator. So this could be gone. And let me just move these for a minute. Okay. Get rid of this. So you would still have this option of a stronger version of the action and a weaker version of the action. Okay, right? So gathering sap. This is, you know, I would pretty much call it whatever this first step is. So again, this was about like simplifying, like, do I need this extra cost in here? Maybe not. It does, I think, force the players to, well, okay, so I think this automatically happens. So I think that was one thing. Gathering sap just happens automatically. Like you have a little program where you know you're gonna get this. You have this flow of sap. Okay. And I also thought this might actually visually make it possible to visually change the yeah, to change the layout here, because look at how much room there is now that we don't need the candy, we don't need the we don't need the holding tank, right? So if this is all just kind of up here, out of the way. The only thing that doesn't seem cool right now is how to catch syrup, it's gonna cost you money or it's gonna get trashed. And the money it's gonna cost eventually is like negligible. Right? So it feels kind of unnecessary. What I like about this, though, is that what this is starting to look like. I'm going to group all this, stick this off into the corner. So there are like two things you need to care about, or that two dials you can turn. Oops. Two dials you can turn. One is how many cubes come into the Sugar Shack, right? So that's a dial to turn. When you transfer the sap in, you could either let it happen because it's going to happen automatically, right? Should I change? Green was better, so I think I'm going to make transferring green. Let's do that again. Then evaporate can still be pink, and then catching can be blue. Yeah, because yellow didn't look great. Oops. Okay, so that'll be blue. This is green. I don't think this space doesn't need to be taken up anymore. But it's just here for a second until I figure out what I want to adjust. So yeah, so this is cool because if I want to take a monster turn, let me get rid of these now. I can get rid of this. Okay. So there's the transfer. Why is that? Oh, I see. Yeah. This has one too. Okay, so the first step is to transfer. Now, if I don't do anything, transferring is going to happen. No, transferring is happening. However, if I wait a minute. Okay, transferring is going to happen, but I can transfer more or less, right? That's the concept here. I can either do a strong transfer or a weak transfer. This should now be green. Okay, so strong transfer is all three spaces. The weak transfer is just the two spaces. Right? By the way, I had a pretty exciting meeting with some of our retreat team yesterday, and it had to do with getting this marketing engine going, because I have to say, I'm not a very capable, or right now I'm not a disciplined marketer. I think I could be. I think I could be effective in a way, but I just don't have a lot of experience with it, and I'm not super intentional about it. As in, like, one of the great things we had, I think it was 2 retreats ago. One of our guys who was here for a year, he was an intern. He got this really great footage. Where he interviewed some people, and okay, I also don't need this anymore. See, it's so nice realizing, like, when something becomes irrelevant or redundant because it's vestigial, and when you recognize that it's vestigial, you get to say, okay, bye-bye, we don't require your service anymore. We're going to streamline a little bit. Like, that feels really good, right? So how would this play out? That's what I'm curious about. Like, this already might not work, but it just kind of looks and feels kind of cool. Okay, I can replicate these. Okay, evaporator. Ba 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 ba. See, like, I didn't know that was the Rocky theme song. So this is now going to be pink. Pink. Okay, so so evaporating. Transfer, evaporate. I know I don't need to be taking up all this space. So let me do something about that. Right. Let's give a little more breathing room here to yellow. So what size is this? Let's make it 8, make this one 8. Oh, that would have been really tiny. Okay, there's transfer, bring it up here, I guess. Or maybe, you know what? Bring this down here. Okay, and then right, and then center all these. Nice. Oops. And this. all these together. Oh, and maybe I should have moved this. I should probably move this over anyway to make some room for catch. Right? I can group these, distribute horizontally. Great. This guy can come back. Kind of even out. Now I can group these things and then center them on this. Where would the world be without Canva? That's my question. So this is, you know what, maybe this now, it's possible that this now needs to be this light pink. I'm gonna right, and then transfer. Let's put another block over here. Could this be narrower? It probably could be. Maybe make these 7s. Oh, this is one that I wanted to, yeah. There's a little bit of a weird behavior, like sometimes you can't select everything. Yeah, I don't really know why that happens sometimes. Okay, now we can bring this. We're gonna match this guy. So that's close. That's a lot closer. They're probably not the same size, and this is already like over designing the situation, right? I guess what I could do here, just to make sure that they are, get rid of this. Oh, they actually are really close. Then I can just reduce this just a little bit. Okay. Okay, there we go. So this will now be catch. Make it blue. I like the look of this. Like this one can look a little different. It looks so clean, right? Compared to what it was. That's kind of the point. Send this to the back. It looks really, really clean. And so I'm pretty happy with that. So maybe these should just be pink. I still kind of like, probably swap these actually. No. Because I still want to show the stuff going into the trash can, right? So is it like that? So it's not going to be like as balanced as I was hoping. So I need a catch right here. I think those are in line, right? Yep. So here's the, I think the concept now is pretty clear. In that these things are going to happen. They're going to happen, but when are they going to happen, and to what degree are they going to happen? That becomes the important question, right? So, the thing I still don't like is that catch, you have to do catch. So this is going to cost you a little bit of money every time, which means there's no trade-off. Like, it's going to cost everybody. Huh. It's going to cost everybody the same amount of money, which means it's not really going to cost money, right? Like, if everybody has to pay the same thing and you're competing and it's a zero-sum game, then that really comes down to, can you do more with fewer cubes? Because if I'm running my evaporator more often, it's gonna cost me more money to it's gonna cost me more money. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is not a problem. And like I was just thinking, okay, so this cost of the catch syrup now becomes an indication of efficiency. So if I can run my my operation fewer times and still be competitive, then I think that speaks of my efficiency, right? Okay, so now let me bring in some cubes and see how this works. Okay, so let's say I start the game here. I'm just going to add, I'm going to act like this is my, let me get this out of here. I think I'm still going to have something like a holding area, like of the vehicle for these cubes. But just imagine that they're here for just a second. So I don't know, add a box. So this is just standing in for the vehicle, but just to visualize it a little better. I'll actually make a box. Okay, so let's say this is the start of the game. No. Okay. Actually, let's say we don't spend any money. Okay. So I take my turn, and these are gone. Let me send this to the back. So I take my turn. All these cubes are gone. Okay, so they disappear. Now I pay 2 to move these in, and I don't pay anything to bring these in. Okay. Now I take my turn. These are gone. These move over here, and I get 2 more right here. Right? So at this point, evaporate is not an action because these are like, there's no need for this. Wait, this was the start of my turn, right? Wait a minute. Okay, so that was the end of my turn. Okay, so now these go away. Actually, let me just set these some over here. Okay, so these. Hey, Francisco, welcome. Glad to see you. So these are gonna go. Let me start this again. Okay, so let's say this is the start of the game. Okay, I spend these 3 cubes. I'm trying not to spend any money, but I do have to spend. I have to spend these. I have to spend 2 money to shift these into here. Okay, now it's the end of my turn. So I'm gonna not spend money. I'm just gonna leave these here. Okay, so these transfer in automatically at the end of my turn. During my next turn, I spend all 3 of these. At the end of my turn, this moves in, and I gain 2 more. Okay, so this turn, this turn I don't have any cubes. I guess the question is when would I be spending money to catch Serp? Could I catch Serp at any time during my turn? Probably, right? I really don't think there is a time when. Yeah, I don't think there's a time when. This still feels like a problem. I'm kind of hanging on to this because I feel like it's thematic, but it's losing its meaning. It's losing its purpose for being. Like catching Syrup. Because this is a big timing question. When do these things happen? Do they all happen at the start of my turn? Okay, let's try it the other way. Let's try it at the start of the turn. So let's say here is the player's first turn of the game. They have cubes here and they have cubes here. Okay, so it's the start of the turn. No, let's just say they're transferred into the evaporator. They started evaporating. Okay, so at the start of my turn, see, like this doesn't make any sense either. Like, why would? Let's just go with it for a second. So at the start of my turn, these advance. That's the first thing that happens. Then I spend these cubes, right? And these are syrup cubes that will go into, like, take them into town and do whatever you need with them. So they get spent. Okay. Now, at the start of my turn again, these get transferred in. I'm not spending any money. You know what, though? Actually, it should probably be like this. So from right to left. So first I'm going to catch. Okay, so I spent the 2 money to do that. Then I'm going to evaporate. There's nothing to evaporate. Then I'm going to transfer. Okay, this is already weird. Yeah, so this is the big experiment, Francisco. It's so my the phase right before this one was to think through the idea of like action tokens. So up until this point, moving into town meant actually taking a pawn and traveling into town. One step at a time, so you could basically take 3 or 4 actions. You could activate 3 to 4 tiers of the town with actually shifting, like moving a pawn up in there. And that's when I was still attached to the worker placement aspect of the game. As I realized that the worker placement aspect was phasing itself out over time, then I just pretty much eliminated, replaced the worker placement mechanic with action tokens. No, that was actually for several reasons. But one of them was that it opens up, it's still very limited as an action economy. It's still very limited. It was limited with the vehicles, and now it's limited almost even more by being able to spend a number of tokens rather than taking a number of steps. But you could spend those tokens. Let's say you could spend the tokens, let's say you had 2 tokens. You could spend them one time on a 2-tier building, or you could activate a 1-tier building twice, or 2 tier 1 buildings once. So that's what I was thinking. There's a little more flexibility there. It could be more analysis paralysis potential. But anyway, that's when, okay, a few of the other buildings started making more sense. There's more diversity in what seemed possible for buildings themselves. So adding a 3rd currency actually seemed really helpful. And then I wondered, what if the syrup cubes themselves become the action tokens? So that put the spotlight back on the Sugar Shack, because now every turn you need a really consistent flow of syrup in order to be taking reasonable turns. Like you need you need these action tokens, which are syrup at this point. So that's what I'm working on right now, is like really streamlining the Sugar Shack. Um, yeah, so I'm trying this idea out. So are the action cubes your syrup? This is brand new as a concept. Brand new as a concept as of my drive home yesterday from school. So it kind of feels promising, but I'm just kind of figuring out what are the trade-offs, what's the system in here where players are either I see these two dials now. So there's like the strong version of the action and the weak version of the action. The weak version is what you just let happen. The strong version, you can pay a little money into the system to have more syrup and to have it when you need it. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, so I took my turn. I caught syrup. I'm catching syrup at the start of my turn. Then I'm evaporating. Then I'm transferring. So right now, I could evaporate. Yeah, because I think I should be able to. Like, this feels crazy. I should be able to evaporate. Right. Transfer again. And I'm going to spend the 2 money to take the strong version of the action, which is to bring in 3 cubes rather than let 2 cubes come in automatically at the start of my next turn. So I should be able to catch this. And now I have... Actually, why did I do that? So I could catch this right now, and then I'd have 5 cubes to work with. I could evaporate, right? So I want this, I think it'd be cool to have this flexibility in the game where you could pretty much just like spend a ton of money to make all this happen. But that is the issue. I think you should have to spend a ton of money to make it happen. So if you want to take huge actions, like if you want to have a really powerful turn, then it's going to need to cost you money. And right now, money is victory points. So I think that should be a pretty decent trade-off to care about. So I think there could be a really, really nice fine balance that you're going to need to manage, and it all has to do with caring about the pace of your opponent, I think. Right? Because if your opponent is just kind of taking things slow, you could speed up your process a little bit, but if you speed it up too much, you're going to be spending money to do it, and the cost of catching, there's got to be a significant cost here, right? And so what I was saying is, yeah, it's good for me to explain it to myself, Francisco. So thank you for your prompting there. Yeah, so catching syrup actually, it indicates how many times you've run your evaporator, right? So the more times you run your evaporator overall throughout the game, the more money you will have spent. So I actually really, really like this idea. I like this problem too. So can you do more with less? I think that's a beautiful Euro type problem, right? So if you're desperate to catch up, you need to take these huge turns. And so you're just like powering through. You're just like evaporating like mad. You're going to be spending money. So even though you're taking more powerful turns, it's costing you more overall throughout the game, right? It's costing you more because you're forcing things through your Sugar Shack. So the more I think about this, the more I really, really like it. So the lightning bolts are anytime something happens immediately in the game. At least it seemed important to have a little symbol for that. So end of turn move cubes. So this should not. It kind of started as like when things happen automatically. That was my thinking there with the lightning bolt. So in this case, what this symbolizes, the two choices are, I think I can kind of get rid of these because I'm believing more and more in this little system. So this is the lightning bolts. That's what would happen if you just, as a player, if you just let it happen. So the version of the action that would just automatically happen. So I don't think the UI is super good right here, like with these accompanying these arrows with the lightning bolts, but pretty much what would happen is the transfer. Oh, you know what? I still need wait. Yeah, I think I still need these kind of jail cell bars here. Oops. Why is this grouped? Oh, because it was a massive group anyway. Okay, so this is gonna sit. It needs to sit below. Okay, so the transfer step. Yeah, so the money is represented with within these circles. So anytime you would gain money, like if you gain money at the end of the round, at the end of the game, it's just a circle with a number in it. If you gain money immediately, it's a circle with a number in it and a lightning bolt. If you are spending money, that's a green circle. If you're spending money, then it's this symbol. And you spend it immediately. There's almost no reason to have this now because there's almost no reason to have this version of spending money because I just took out loans, and a loan was what you'd have to pay back at the end of the game. So that was the one instance when at the end of the game there would be a cost. So there's almost no reason to have this anymore, except that you can still, it feels like consistency with the green, with gaining money, because you can gain money immediately or you can gain money at the end of the game. So because those two symbols still exist, I feel like this one should still exist. But yeah, this is the cost. These are the costs I'm looking at. Okay, so the process is the transfer is going to happen. The transfer is automatically going to happen. And automatically means that you would just get these two cubes at the start of your turn. You would automatically gain 2 cubes. If you want to pay some money, you'll gain 3 cubes. That's what this little area is meant to communicate. Okay. Then at the start of your next turn, if these cubes are here, then these are going to evaporate automatically. However, if I want to spend a bunch of money, I can force them to evaporate this turn. Right? Now, at the start, I could continue and I could catch the syrup. I could essentially bottle it right now. Maybe I'll just say bottle syrup instead of catch. That was also vestigial. I really like in syrup making, there's a really important moment where the syrup has the right amount of water content. If it's too little water content, then the syrup will then go to crystallize, and then it's bad. You're not going to sell it like that. If there's too much water in it, then of course the flavor is not as strong, but more importantly, it's more likely it has greater potential to go rancid. So it can go bad if the sugar content relative to the water content, if the sugar content is not high enough, then there's a possibility that the syrup is going to go rancid. It can go rancid anyway, I believe, but it would happen sooner if the sugar content is lower and the water content is higher. So that's the moment that I was trying to capture in this game, was like catching it at that little window where it's just right, which is when you would be bottling it anyway. Like that would, or no, you wouldn't necessarily be bottling it, but you would definitely pull it out of the evaporator and you might put it in a holding tank to then bottle it. But here we might as well bottle it. You know what? I'm just going to say fill. So we have fill and then bottle. Okay, I like this better. Yeah, I still kind of think we want... I still think we want this to be a little box. Is this a 1? It is. Yeah, so the trash can, this is slightly outdated too, but so it's not, it doesn't really represent a true choice here, but the point is, if you don't spend the money to bottle the syrup is going to get trashed. So all that would look like is, if there are still cubes here at the start of your next turn, then they would just get discarded. Yeah. So that's like describing that window, that sensitive window when the syrup's just right. If you miss it, if you don't focus on the syrup when you need to, that syrup's going to go bad. So it's not a true choice in the sense that, like, you have to, on your turn, you're going to spend the money to bottle it, right? You just have to do it. Otherwise, you're basically you're not going to be able to take a meaningful turn. So it's not a true choice, but there's a consequence if for whatever reason you're crazy enough to just like ignore that you have syrup in your evaporator. You're just going to lose it, right? So, yeah, I don't love it. I think I still need it. I think I still need it, but it's not that meaningful. But you can't just let the cube sit in your evaporator for forever. The thing is, you wouldn't do that anyway. Like, nobody would actually do that. So it almost looks like it's a choice, but it's not really a choice. So I'm going to increase the cost here. A little bit. It's important. True. I actually don't know maple candy process. I don't. I still think you want good syrup when you make candy. Let me see. Operated too long for candy. Maybe that is what they do. Yeah, I guess you can. Interesting. Yeah. I like that. The thing is, I don't know why. Hmm. The thing is, it doesn't automatically become candy. And so I might be thinking slightly too thematically here, but so you could gain money. So it could be so little money. It could just be like gain 1 money for each cube that doesn't get bottled. I just don't know why anybody would choose that. So, because you're always going to have some money to pay for it. That's the thing. It's a good observation though that it wouldn't necessarily just go to a trash can. So the alternative here would be just to remove the trash can altogether. Like, because it's not. My thing is, it's not strategically relevant. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh, I see what you mean. That it actually becomes a different type of. Oh, a different type of currency almost. Hmm. Hmm. That's definitely a thought. Yeah, I don't really. I'm imagining the fiddliness right now of. I just moved these 3 cubes in. Now these 3 cubes, I just have to swap out for these 3 cubes. Or you would just put them into maybe different holding areas. So like to identify what cube is what, they would just sit on different parts of the card or something like that. Yeah. I don't mind that idea, and that does open up things like it might be more useful. Interesting. Like it might be more valuable to sell candy at the park, right? Like when else would candy be? Yikes, Francisco, yikes. Um, hmm. So you can kind of imagine a world here. Yeah. You can imagine a world where let's say when you're going to the bank, to activate the bank you would spend candy. Like you take a candy in there, you give it to the bank. And then you interact with it however you want. Um hmm. There might be a little more than necessary going on there. So I do want to try, I want to test this version without any special extra items first. Hmm. But I, I wouldn't mind at all. Yeah, I wouldn't mind at all letting the letting those cubes be worth something. Huh. Here's the other thing. So right now the grant office runs on discarded cubes. So one thing you could do is maybe this is some possibility here is if you let a batch go, then it would make big progress toward the grants. But that's almost like too much. Like you could get a really good grant for like if you just burn 2 turns. So what happens with the grant office is that some of these buildings, like for example, some of these buildings have you discarding cubes. Are they gone? I feel like this is not right. Huh. Right now I only see... That's weird. Huh. So I think at least the Closerby market should let you discard cubes. Like this one. So discarding is when you discard a cube, it would go to the grant office. When you remove a cube from the game, it doesn't go to the grant office, so it doesn't help you toward an upgrade. But grant office upgrades, it would be to spend 5 cubes that have been discarded here. Or maybe you just have to discard more cubes now. Interesting. Actually, this might be something here. What I could do, I guess, is I could make this a choice. So let's say like once you're done with the grant office, that you wouldn't necessarily want to use cubes at the grant office anymore. You could just discard them for 1 money. Huh. Oh, I think at the bank. No, I think I took away the two buildings that have you discarding cubes. So and even here, let me grab a cube. So these would now be different symbols. Should I make this brown? Probably. Uh-huh. So we can call this a syrup cube. That is a strange color, this one. Oh, wait, this one's meant to be the dark one. Okay. So I'm just... Oh, these need to be ungrouped. So this is go. Yeah, so this is now... So these are now syrup cubes. And maybe this should be a little smaller than this, but for now that's okay. So what you can do here now is rather than action tokens, you place syrup cubes, I guess. Should be that small? Yeah, maybe. Get rid of this. Oops. Okay. Like, it's not obvious to me why you would all of a sudden have another bottle of syrup, but let's just go with it for now. Let's just call that a possible thing. Is there any other action? Yep, so there are action token things here. I don't mind this. As a possibility here. Ungroup that and make this a little smaller. Group this. So I'm just about done for the day, I think. That one. So this is almost like, I know this doesn't make any sense, but it's almost like, cool, I found this extra bottle of syrup. Why did that happen? Nobody knows, but sweet. So you just gain an extra bottle all of a sudden. What was the other building? This one. So ungroup this. Ungroup this. Let me drop this in here. Oh, what were you doing in there, sneaking around? Actually, wait a second. Okay. Looks like I just had 2 copies of things sitting right there. And now, where was that? So some of these, oh, wait a minute. Oh, why did I do that? This can just come sit right here. And then we'll just delete whatever's under here. So, what is that? I don't know what a bumper trip is. What kind of ignorance did I just display? I'm a little scared to like look at whatever that is. Oh. So this no longer matters. Yeah, like I don't think. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, right. You would. What I'm thinking is that there are these. This was back a few days ago when I was thinking about an action token economy. And what Syrup Inc. became was an opportunity to spend money to spend a little money to get an extra action token next turn, or spend a lot of money to get extra action tokens right now. So that was the idea. And I can still do that. Because now you're partnering with Syrup Inc. Before it was like, before you were kind of courting Syrup Inc. to get a good deal with them. So it was kind of like an endgame bonus or something. Or you got a little income, extra income every turn. But here, you could maybe coordinate with this conglomerate to make sure you have enough syrup on hand. So this means getting stronger turns right now. And then this was an action token thing where you would come here, you would place an action token, so in this case you can take an income, or you can withdraw. You can either deposit or withdraw to the bank. Now don't ask any questions about depositing syrup into the bank. This is a special bank. Syrup is fungible in this game. I just had to look up that word fungible at the start of the stream. But anyway, in this case, yeah, the more cubes you pile on here, the more money you can withdraw. The question I had about the bank is should you have to remove the cubes once you do this? Maybe, hey. That's right. This is like, yeah, kind of like maybe like beaver skins. You know, this is some alternate universe where, or alternate history where syrup is gold, I think is what happened. So I feel good about this. I feel good about the streamlining here. Once I realized that running the Sugar Shack is a fixed cost, variable only for the players in choosing how often to run the Sugar Shack. So you can run the Sugar Shack for almost for free if you just let it happen. But if you want to like increase the speed of the process, you can, but it's going to be an investment. But still, no matter how you affect the process, it's still going to cost you something to run the Sugar Shack. So I really like that. It's, you know, it'd be interesting to just track how many times a player has run the Sugar Shack by the end of the game. And I'm almost tempted now to just build a little tracker. Okay, this doesn't mean anything yet, but I'm going to do it for no reason whatsoever. I don't know what it's for, but I'm going to add a tracker to the Sugar Shack because there could be a reason. There could be a reason to track how many times you've run the Sugar Shack. There could be a reason. I'm not saying there is, but there could be. So I'm just about to transition away. Let me see. Let's say both players decided just a little bit. So, yes. So if you were to if both players just spend as little money as possible in the Sugar Shack process, then they're still making some choices around, for instance, when to upgrade. This is the starting version of the Sugar Shack, right? So the other side, once they flip the card, then they would be producing more and possibly for cheaper. So it could get out of hand if I don't figure out how to balance the cost. But the other side of the Sugar Shack would be like 4 cubes. They could run 4 cubes through the evaporator, and maybe reduce the cost a little bit, kind of for mass production or something. So that's one upgrade. Another upgrade would be to build the barrel upgrade. These are shown over here. So you could buy barrels. Barrels are for interacting with... Right now, the only place to use barrels... Oh, no. You can spend barrels... Yeah, so randomness comes into play in a few different areas. Or like you can work for some different advantages. So a couple of the main choices, this is not random, but are when you upgrade what. So you can upgrade your Sugar Shack. You can add a barrel upgrade, which means you can interact with the warehouse differently, so you can get a bunch more money once you get the barrel upgrade. You can spend barrels at the markets. There's randomness at the markets. So there's card draw and there's rolling dice at the markets. For payouts, the other upgrade possibilities are at the grant office. I need to change most of these, but these are like upgrades that should be pretty powerful that you race for. So that's not, again, that's not randomness, but there is competition there. Like once I have this upgrade, you can't have it. So that's one way to create asymmetry. And then the true randomness, though, I think what really makes this game work, or would make it work in theory, is what's called the Mayor's Favor cards. So each building has a Mayor's Favor, which has a condition and a benefit. So there would be a stack of cards. You would draw one, you would place it with that building, and then it becomes a race to fulfill the condition of that Mayor's Favor card so that you gain some important benefit. And then the next card would come out. So whereas Town is generally stable, so it's like a pure efficiency puzzle that's probably solvable generally, except there is some randomness in the money, the payouts you get from certain buildings, and there is a emergent asymmetry because I can gain some upgrades that you can't. In addition to that, so Town being pretty stable, my hope is that these Mayor Favor cards that come out randomly would influence players' decision making and create some tension in that way. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to spend a few minutes getting ready for school. Thanks for hanging out with me, Francisco. It's actually really nice to talk through things and think through things with somebody else. So appreciate your time. Blessings to you. Have a great day. And for everybody else who sees this, thanks for joining, and I'll see you soon.